welcome back to Let's Talk God, Jesus, and Faith today. I am your host, Crystal Ruiz, and I'm here with Dr. Tom Slayton.
Hey, how you guys today? Good seeing you.
You know, Tom, I think we need to talk about obedience and faith. And you said something, and I wrote it down, and I wanted to say it exactly as you said it, because in church I was like, what on earth? Um, you said your setback is not the end of your story. What looks like a detour may be a divine setup. And it got me to thinking on how we when we get frustrated, we get these little detours in life, we get these setbacks. I think I told you before we were running that my brother lost his job after all these years, and he's actually, I've been telling him for a couple of years that it's hard to find a job when you hit a certain age. You know, you literally age out of the market, right?
Oh, I know, I know.
And so I told him this for years, and he didn't kind
He
of
didn't
listen.
believe it.
And then all of a sudden, he hits 50,
Yeah.
and all heck breaks loose, and he loses his job, and he's having trouble finding another one. And now he's to the point where, well, for years I've been telling him, create your own job, make
Mhm.
your own job. And that's exactly what he's finally doing. But I think that these detours, these roadblocks that we set in life, aren't necessarily, bad things, right? I think that God has a plan, and you just said it a moment ago. We can't see it sometimes,
Yeah, we
right?
can't we can't see what God is doing because we're looking at the seen and he's looking at the unseen.
Yeah, we're
You
looking at the
know.
train wreck, and he's looking at
Right.
something else.
Yeah. You know, a lot of times you mention, well, we're looking at the train wreck. I think back of my days as a deputy when a guy was so upset that he had been in a wreck here. But if he had continued down the road only 1/8 of a mile, he would have probably have been killed.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So, it's things that happen in the kingdom of God that seems like the end of life to us at the time. But if we just learn how to just keep trusting Him, He'll move us into something bigger and a lot better.
Well, you said something else at another one of our services, and you talked about the little boy who um, had a lunch, and Jesus fed thousands with that lunch. And I think we're kind of like that little boy going, "This is all we got."
Yeah, and He fed 5,000. That's in the Bible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's all we got.
yeah.
And he had the faith enough to go, "Here,
He had
take what's mine,"
he had two pieces of bread and two fish,
and
and
that was it.
Jesus fed 5,000 with that.
And
You
you
know.
want, I mean, it kind of reminds me of that image of, I know you don't watch it, but the Chosen, they have this image of the woman at the well, and where she comes and she's talking to Jesus, and once she figures out who he is, she gets so excited. She goes running through town just screaming she's met the Messiah, right? And that's the joy you feel when, that little boy must have felt when Jesus fed 5,000, or did he
Mhm.
not even realize that
I don't,
how it worked?
I don't know. I had never really looked into that, but I suspect when he started, he didn't realize it. But after it started going, he realized it. Because when they gave it to the apostles and the apostles divided it into 12 separate, and then them going to 12.
How'd that happen?
Yeah, right.
What kind of
So,
math is that?
but in reality, that's the type of things that are available to us. But our generation is so cynical; they think all of these things have passed away.
Well, and I think
The supernatural has not passed away.
it's something else you just brought up just by saying what you said. Nowadays, everything we want is instantaneous. We want everything now,
Yes.
and sometimes now is not the time.
Well, remember, now is always capitals.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
We always want it now, and
Sure. Sure.
we're in that type of a world, and I think we have to step back and slow down and take a breath and trust.
Well, and trust requires you to say, okay, now this occurred. Now I'm walking on. I don't have to sit there and wait for a manifestation Because in our mind, now it's always coupled with a manifestation that we can see because we're visual beings.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
God is a supernatural being. He is an all-knowing being. And since the scripture says we are like him, well, scripture doesn't say we're like God. No, it says we're like Jesus, and it says Jesus is God, so that's we're like God.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So we can do things,
Well, he created us in the image of God,
yes,
right?
but the point is that the things we can do, we don't believe that we can do, so we don't even try.
Well, and Jesus said we could do greater things, right?
Oh, now you're really messing around.
Well,
Greater things than these.
I mean that just blows my mind because he did some pretty great things. Like he did some amazing things that
Yeah.
I'm just floored at. I'm just happy to get through the day,
But
you
you know
know?
what's so interesting is people, they miss that conversation. Jesus said, what you see me do, greater things will you do because I go to the Father. Did he go to the Father? Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Are the greater things being done? Well, in reality, we really don't know. I think in a lot of countries, some things are being done that we're just not aware of. There have been reports of people walking on water
Hmm.
and walking above the water. There's been all types of supernatural things reported from other countries, but our scientists will quickly debunk them, they claim.
Hmm.
You know, what they do is they make the Spirit of God of none effect, like they've
Scientists
always
like to
done.
do that. I don't know what's wrong with them.
Uh,
I don't understand it. I mean, I guess they have to see, right?
well,
You said it because they have to see.
that's the way science is.
And so that's
Yeah,
just who they are as they want to see it.
right,
But
right.
then you have that story, and there's a movie based on this book about a journalist who was an
Hmm.
atheist, diehard atheist. Absolutely was positively positive there was no God.
Hmm.
And so he decides he's going to go and research this. And the
Hmm.
more he researched it, the more he realized that he was
There's a
wrong.
God. Hmm.
And there is a God.
Yeah,
I
right.
keep referring back to that young man who's got the highest IQ in the world, and he himself is now coming forward and being more and more vocal about there actually being God and actually being Jesus, the Son of God, and him being the Messiah. And it's interesting to watch his little comments and posts and things that he
Hmm.
puts out there because he's totally science minded. Like he is, he needs to see it, it's tangible, and yet he's going, it's tangible.
But you know, the problem with science, and I was very science minded, science would take you up to this point, but they don't know how to make the next step.
Right, there's no connection.
Yeah, and they
Mm-hmm.
can't, they know it's there. If I could get from here to here, I could see it, but I can't get past this block right here. That call it the block of faith.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the only way you get from here to here, and
Yeah.
they can't do it, or
It's
they won't do it.
kind of reminds me of genealogy. I've been working on all these, I love genealogy.
Hmm.
And you can go back so far and then you can't get that. You're here, but you can't get from here to here because you don't have the information in between.
Hmm.
So you kind of have to wait it out and kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's that gap that you go, it's
If I
there.
could fill this with something truthful and tangible, then we would be
We would be where
off
we
to the
want.
races.
Right.
But we can't do that.
But it's really interesting. My mind is just going crazy here. All of a sudden, we were talking about my brother and his losing of his job, but a lot of people have gone through that, especially
Hmm.
right now. And I wrote a post on X on AI taking over jobs, and we're losing a massive amount. I think we lost 79,000 jobs in just the short time, 6 months there,
Mm.
just from AI to an
Yeah.
automated little
Yeah.
bot
But
thing,
I
right?
got great news between me and you.
Yeah.
AI is not going to take over you. You know
No.
why? The Bible doesn't say it does.
Well, and it can't because it can't be human. So
Right.
no matter how hard they try, you're
Hmm.
missing that human touch. And
Yes.
that's where it's interesting because you think it's going to take over writing. And it is. It's taking over writing. It's taking over coding. It's taking over all these
Well,
high-paying
they
jobs.
said the same thing with computers
But
that it would do that. So,
right, and eventually,
yeah.
if we allow it to, but it
Mhm.
still doesn't get that human connection.
Mhm.
It still has that gap.
Well, that's the thing. Even the computer can only take you to this point,
Right.
but then it can't get through that gap to the supernatural because it does not have faith.
Right. It doesn't. It's not human. It doesn't
Yeah,
have faith.
it does not have faith. And the humans, they want to be like the computer. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have faith. So
No.
very few can bridge the gap.
Isn't
You
it?
know,
It's amazing that we're part of those very few.
yeah, too many people, they know that Jesus raised the dead.
Mm-hmm.
They know that we are created in his image and we can do what he did. We know we can do greater than he did. But you know what? Out of all of the battles and all of the Christians, you never heard of nobody trying to raise the dead. Now,
No.
I'll tell you a story. When Tommy was electrocuted and drowned in the bathtub in Beaumont, I told Michael, I said, Michael, I am not going to leave him dead.
Mm-hmm.
Michael looked at me. I said, I don't care how long it's been. I am not going to leave him dead. Well, when you step out in faith, your faith will be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And I was challenged. I was challenged. Well, challenged in the beginning versus knowledge. Okay, without circulation of blood to your head for 4 minutes, you're brain damaged.
Mm-hmm.
For 6 minutes, you're irreversibly brain damaged.
Mm-hmm.
8 minutes, you're unresuscitatable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I started off with a 10+ minute deficit and didn't get a reaction with Tommy until 44 minutes.
That's
What do you
crazy.
do? Do you just, should I have given up at 30 minutes? Or maybe 38 minutes? No, I'm not going to give up. And I told Michael as I was doing heart compressions, I said, I will press until I collapse.
Yep.
And I continued and continued. And finally, after all of that time, well, now I just talked to him this week. Um, he got all of the classical family situations, well, my
Mm-hmm.
wife's not doing this. And I looked at him, I went, oh.
You're like, thank God.
Yeah,
Thank
but
God.
we have the ability as human beings to do the works of Jesus, but we haven't, I don't believe, the way I see it, arrived at that time yet.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Now let me ask you something because I know that the Bible is parables, and for those of you who don't understand the word, and very few Christians don't understand it, but if you're new to Christianity, that's a story, right? It's a story that
right,
means something else.
right.
And so it's a great story in itself, but when you read
When
it,
you apply it to what
it's
it
different,
applies, yes,
right?
right.
So one of these modern songs is about, they say, rise up uh, out of that grave, um, rise up and basically do what Lazarus did, rise up from the dead.
Hmm.
But they're not meaning the dead like Jesus did with Lazarus. What they're meaning is our lives are dead. We're laying there in a grave. We need to get up.
Well, see now, now you touched on a whole different aspect. Is our application of language.
Mm-hmm.
You see, what the Bible is teaching you is one application of language, and the way the interpreters are interpreting the Bible is a whole another application of language. And they can't make their application fit this application,
Right.
so they make the assumption that since we're older and been around longer, uh, they know more.
Mm-hmm.
No, listen. Do you think that the first, and I'm going to just really shock the people when I say this, do you think that the first earth knew nothing about miracles? Well, what do you mean the first earth? Well, what does the scripture say? what did God do? In the beginning, what did he do?
He created the heavens and earth.
Okay, and the earth was without form and
Right,
void.
right, right.
Okay, well, how do you create without form and void? You
Mm.
can't. See?
But that's part of God, isn't it?
So something has no, but this is part of the natural too. Something happened between the first creation and I'll call it the second creation. And the second creation doesn't want to realize that it really is,
Mm.
you know. So God is on the move, but it all has to do with faith and unbelief. And unbelief is a choice. You find that in John the 20th chapter
Mm-hmm.
that who was it? Thomas said, "Unless I see this, 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 and this, and I do this, this, and this, I will not believe."
Yeah.
He made it. I'm not going to believe this. Well, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just as easy to change our conversation and say, "I'm going to believe."
Well, and that brings me to this. This is one of the things you said. Your setback is not the end of your story.
No.
What looks like a detour may be your divine setup.
Well, your setback could be your comeback.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think
Right.
that we get so bogged down. Frankly, we get bogged down in the bills. We get bogged down in the kids. We get bogged down in the loved ones. We get bogged down in the lack of jobs, the lack of this, the lack
Well,
of that.
that's the natural stuff. But now
And so, how do we get past
take it
that?
over. Well, you don't even start there. You start off in the supernatural. Just like you get bogged down in the natural,
Uh huh.
you can get bogged down in the supernatural.
Oh.
But what do you do? Rather than doing it from the right side, you're going to have to go do it from the left side.
Mm.
Maybe you got to go in and do something else or check. Same thing in the supernatural. We have to take time to work the works of God in the supernatural. And we don't. We try one, and if that don't work,
We
that's it.
bail. Yep. Yep.
you know. So
See it all the
I
time.
mean, I'm rethinking even as a pastor, I have to rethink the things that I do. Example, you take if you had to come up on somebody and they were dead, uh, how long do you pray for them before you decide God ain't heard your prayer?
Mm.
I was coming out of the airport over right off of Stetson down the airport here in Hemet, and there was a terrible car accident. And I heard it when it happened, and I was coming out. I saw it, so I pulled my car over, walked up, and I went over, and the guy was, and this guy, so I went for the thing. He grabbed me on the shoulder, says, "Get out of here, man," and pushed him out of the way. And I grabbed the dude, and I told him, "Live in Jesus' name." And the guy, "You said in Jesus' name." Well, the guy, I said, "You're gonna be okay. Believe that." And I got in my car and left.
Wow.
Now, if I hadn't have done that, he would have just stayed dead because they
Yeah.
weren't going to touch him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what happens in the natural, we don't even try to apply the supernatural. When your kid is dead in the bathtub, you just scream and call the paramedics.
And accept it.
Ah, yeah,
Yeah.
I ain't doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's a miracle you didn't get electrocuted trying to pull that TV out of the bathtub.
Well,
I'm
Gail
stunned.
did that.
I'm stunned.
Yeah,
She didn't get
but here's
electrocuted.
how she did it. She said she don't know why. She reached and she grabbed the TV and she grabbed the wire from the wall at the same time
Oh,
and threw the TV down the hallway.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
I mean, to imagine that split second, you could have had both of them.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
instead, God stepped in. It's interesting because you talk about um, walking upon. I have seen my fair share of dead bodies. I don't
Mm,
really want to see any more, and I can pray to the Lord that I don't see any more. But I have a feeling it's not
hmm
gonna. It just doesn't stop. But when I see them, I don't. I know they're dead. It's not like there's no coming back from some of these
hmm
terrible things. But I pray for their family and their
hmm
friends and their loved ones,
Right,
the
right.
ones who cared about them, because they're the ones that are
They're the
left.
ones that are going to be affected too.
Right, because
But I ask myself a lot of times, how far with what we know about what Jesus did do we go past what Jesus did?
Oh,
Like, Jesus, you never see him reinstalling a head.
yeah, no,
So should we try to reinstall a head? I don't think so.
no.
You know.
I don't think I want to touch a head that's not attached to a
Oh,
body.
well,
But I know I get
they
what
they
you're
don't give you
saying.
they don't give you no trouble.
I get
They
that.
give you no trouble at all. Yeah.
But it's
Boy,
true.
but they are heavy.
I don't understand how we can look at what Jesus did. I mean, look at he did miracles. I'm lucky to get my pants on, both legs, and the same color sock on, and the same shoe on, and a shirt on before I get out the door. That's sometimes how overwhelming things get, right?
Wow.
But then there's days when you just know. Like I don't know how to explain it other than you walk in the glow of God
Well, I
and you
can I
know.
can I can help you, and I don't want to put it this way or come across wrong, but some folks classify me as a little weird
Okay.
because I don't do things in the conventional way. I will walk up and ask the Lord, "What do you want me to do?" And then I will listen for Him to answer.
Sometimes you don't want to hear what he has to say, though,
I don't
isn't
care
it?
what if He says, "I want you," I know I can do it
Right.
because He said it. But I just don't make assumptions, you know.
Yeah.
But a guy, if he's shot 10 times, that don't bother me. If God says go and do this and so, I'm going to
Yeah.
do it.
It's. I think for me, it's each time it's been. Um, you see it, you get that shock, and you do what you need to do, but
Mm.
and then afterwards you fall apart. Afterwards you think about it.
Well,
At the
yeah,
time
yeah.
of
It's
it,
when you start thinking about it. Even when you're in a situation and you're moving in crisis, you get the jitters after.
hmm
Even when I was with L.A. County Sheriff, car accidents were particularly bad, particularly with young people.
oh
When I
yeah,
say young teenagers, they've come out of high school. Now, 12 of them are in a car and have a major head on collision.
yep,
7 of them are dead.
hmm
Well, how do you know they're dead? Because you get up there and you check them real quick, and if they're dead, it ain't no use farting with them.
yep,
You go get you one that's still living.
yeah,
And like this, now put your hand here, hold it here with this hand, and don't move,
yep.
and go get somebody. Then you get back to them, etc. But we have to, in the things of God, do the same thing. Recognize this is where God is taking you, and He doesn't speak. I'm going to say it this way and then try to explain it. God doesn't speak to you in words.
hmm
He speaks to you in pictures.
Thank you. I thought it was just me. I thought it was just
So you
me.
will see, boom, a situation, and you know exactly what to do. You don't
Yeah.
have to start at point A and go down here and go down this road and turn over here and go check with so and so. No, it's a boom, you get the big picture and you know this is what needs to be done.
Or this is the direction you need to go.
Yes, that's the way
Like,
God does.
okay, I don't know how many people have done this, but I have done this over and over again, and it's mind blowing when you think about it. We drive, we have a routine. We go to a stoplight, we stop for the stoplight. It turns green, we hit the gas, we go. And there have been multiple times where I've hesitated.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm like, nope, not putting my foot on that gas yet. And all of a sudden somebody will come flying through that intersection, and
Yeah,
had I put my foot on that gas, we'd have been killed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so he has a
I'm
way of
familiar. I'm
doing that.
familiar with that. But now God taught me another way. He said, "Now you sit there, and when the light changes, you look forward, then you look to the side.
hmm
That's where they're coming from. These are the
Generally.
first ones. Then you look to the other side,
And see, that's where if you look
and then you look
one
back.
way and you go, you forgot the other side.
Never,
Yeah, and that's
never.
how
So
you end up.
therefore, I've eliminated all of my close calls since probably I'm going to say 72,
Yeah.
72, 73. So that's a good while.
But that's it. You see the
But I've
image.
seen the ones I sit there and let them go.
And it's like, I had a car full of,
Yeah.
people in my car, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And then, boom,
Yeah.
this car goes flying through at almost 100 miles an hour, and they were like, because they knew we would have been
Hmm.
dead.
Yeah.
And it's like God has a way of just going, okay, halt, okay,
Hmm.
go ahead, you
Yeah.
know, or when we're in these times of, what did you call it? Times of crisis. What did you call it just a moment ago?
I don't remember.
When we're in that urgency and the crisis mode, where and we're there, we're going, okay, and we have to turn it over to God, because if we don't, we just go down that rabbit hole, right? And it gets
Well,
us
we'll
nowhere.
give up, get overwhelmed, and I hate to see it, but a lot of times, even as a pastor, and I've seen it as a cop, you arrive on the scene and people are crying,
Hmm.
and I'll say, "Why are you crying? Huh? Why are you crying? I don't know." I
Hmm.
said, "Wipe the tears out of your eyes and grab his hide and flip him up on the pier, and let's save him." And you
Yeah.
do, you know.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking the other day about a guy. I got a call one time to go to the pier in Point Dumay, and I got there and I ran up on the pier, and they said, "I think that guy could be dead." I said, "What guy?" Said, "The guy right there. See his head?" I said, "Yeah." The guy says, "We've been watching him 15 minutes,
Oh my
and
gosh.
he stopped moving." So I said, "And you've been watching him?" I said, "Did you ever think to jump in and get him?" The guy, he told me the classic. And to this day, when I say this, it's gonna tick me off. He said, "I got my clothes on."
Oh my god. Yeah, you got 12
The
on too.
guy was 1 inch, but he was caught in the kelp,
Oh.
and he couldn't get himself loose from the kelp. But he was 1 inch from the water, and they thought, "Oh well, he'll be able to get out. He's just right there." And the
Oh,
guy was dead when I got to him.
how awful.
But it is awful, and I think thank God for the ones that I have saved. Um, I remember running down Zuma Beach, and I saw this guy when he went up and went down, and I'm running down the beach towards him, and I drop my gun belt, gun and all, just right in the sand, and I jump into the water. I got to get him up, pull him up, bring him to the um, ocean, and I mean bring him to
Sure.
the shore, and start giving him mouth to mouth. Well, he coughed a couple of times, he breathed a couple of times, and the ambulance came, and the ambulance driver says, "He's gone." I says, "You get your hide over here right now and put oxygen on this man and get him to the hospital." Well, he's rolling his eyes, and we get in there. Do you know the guy was fine after we got him to the hospital?
Wow.
Yeah. Because, see, quote unquote, people that are supposed to be professional, they're lazy.
But I think
They won't do what they're supposed to
I
do.
think yes, true, but I think people don't see the whole picture. So I think that when you step back and you saw the whole picture, right? They're in their own little tunnel vision, which is kind of what we're talking about with Jesus, and how he sees differently than we do. God sees differently than we do.
Yeah, God
We
sees it a
have
lot
our
differently.
vision here, and he's seeing the whole picture. So
Right.
we might be fired from our job, or we might have difficulty finding a job after being unemployed for so long. But God has a bigger plan than what our little job, that we're just begging for something, right?
Yeah.
Just for table scraps. We got to have some kind of job. But God's going, here's a bigger job for you to do.
Hmm.
And you've got the qualifications because I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I think we need to remind ourselves, the here and the now, that God is with us. We are his chosen,
Hmm.
right? We're marked by God to be his. Jesus Christ called us. He
Hmm.
called us from the grave and said, "You're mine."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
we are going to be
so
with him.
many people. I guess it's my upbringing in the spiritual realm that made me different. In that I didn't see things the way people normally did. Like I remember just taking it from a sergeant. He was with his mouth, he was beating me up
Oh.
tremendously after I had saved this guy. And finally, I looked at him. I said, "Are you finished?"
Mm.
He looked at me. I said, "Is he alive?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "It's all my fault, ain't it?"
Ah.
He said, "Yeah, but it could." I said, "Don't go coulda." I
Because it
said,
didn't.
"Coulda don't count."
That's right.
I said, "Next time we'll go to coulda." And the guy was so happy. As a matter of fact, 3 months later, I was sitting on the desk at Malibu Sheriff Station, and this guy came in, and two women and another man came in, and they walked up to the counter. And the guy, he looked at me. He, you know how you have the part that folds down to make.
Uh-huh.
He opened it up and reached around and just came and just hugged me, and
Aw.
started crying. And his mom said, "You must be Deputy Slayton." I said, "Yeah." She says, "You saved him."
Aw.
I said, "I did." She says, "Yeah, you just didn't give up on him when everybody else gave up on him.
Isn't
And
that
look at him, he's fine."
isn't that what God does?
Yeah, he don't
Isn't that
give
what
up on us.
Jesus did? He's
Yeah,
not given up on us no matter where we are.
right.
And he meets us where we're
Hmm.
at.
Yeah, but like always, you have to. I'm going to put it this way because you'll understand. Back off the devils. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause, I mean, they're out there. They're coming. Oh, you don't do blah, 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 blah. And I mean, like,
Don't accept what they
if you're
say.
helping, if you're helping somebody, they say, "Well, I'm gonna stop. I'm just gonna run in there and beat you up." I don't think so.
Hmm.
They don't work that way.
Isn't it true? There's this, and before we go, there's this story that I heard a long time ago about this little lady that was walking. She was in an area that wasn't very good, and she was walking down this alley from a like a grocery store 7-Eleven type thing. She's walking away from this, and these thugs were going to assault and attack her. And she walked up there, and I don't know if she said what she said. I don't know what she did, but they turned ghost white and bolted the other way. And later on, they said that there was this giant angel with her, and they were scared to death because of his sword, the size he was. I mean, here she was, this little tiny person, and here's this giant angel protecting this woman.
I heard a story similar. A lady was there and she was smiling, and these guys are going at her and everything, and she's smiling. And the one guy said, "Lady, are you stupid?" She says, "No, I think you should turn around now."
Mm.
The guy turned around and there was three 12-foot angels behind him. The
Oh,
guy disappeared.
isn't that
He's like,
amazing?
"Phew," in the trees.
Gone. Gone. God, I would be gone
Yeah,
too. I mean, even just one angel,
yeah.
I'd be
Well,
gone.
it's interesting. I knew that an angel was coming to my house, this house right here. And I was sitting on that sofa in there. It wasn't that one before we had this one. And I said, I knew there was going to be an angel. And I went like this, and the angel was inside.
Oh.
And I screamed,
Ah.
and he went out the door.
Oh.
I ran up and opened the door behind him, and I turned just in time that I could grab his belt buckle. And then it disappeared.
Gone. Well, isn't that amazing? And I think that we have to remember that God is in our lives, and we have to
Yes,
accept it. And no matter how bad things look,
yes.
no matter what our life is like right now, is not going to be like this, and it never stays like this. And God always uses it for good.
Well, I always think to tell people, read your Bible so you can say what God said rather than what the devil tells you to say.
True.
Because in time of crisis, you will say the wrong thing unless you're trained to say the right thing.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, even like when I'm at the dais, I pray all the time
Yeah,
because sometimes my mouth just wants to go,
right, right.
and I want to tell somebody really like it is, but
Mhm.
but I let the Lord handle it, and sometimes you watch me and you go, "What just came out of her mouth?" Because it's
Yeah.
I'm praying the whole time because we've got to step back sometimes and let God do the work.
Hmm. Do me a favor. I just saw something.
Hmm?
Is that a Bible behind you?
This one
Yeah.
probably, I believe so.
Oh man, another beat up one.
Look at that.
Is that one behind you over there? Oh,
Yep. You've got them all over the place.
okay.
But do you know what's great about this Bible? You know what's great about it? It is used.
Well, yeah, I use them for sure. Same
It
with that
is.
one over
It
there.
is
It's used.
used. It's loved. It's in
Yeah.
yellow, and um,
And
that's
all of the
what's
things are broken off of
amazing.
it.
Yeah, it's amazing when you
Give
look
me
at
that one
someone's
over there.
Bible to look at it and see, is it really used, or is it just used to sit on a shelf? You know, I mean, look at this one. This one kills me. Look at the back end of this. Like, it's not even attached.
Look at the notes that I put in the back, though.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, look at sticky pads. This is what I love, sticky notes. That's what, I'm like, give me those sticky notes. And you know what else I love about this Bible? It has a colored map in the back. So you can kind of see where they're talking about.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
for me, sometimes it's hard for me to imagine Jesus Christ wasn't walking right here.
Well, what's interesting too is when they said, well, to walk the blah, 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 blah. I've looked up, that's 109 miles.
Can you believe it?
And
And they
they,
walked.
yeah, but the thing was, you think they did it today. No, that story that you looked at, it was 20 minutes or something.
Hmm.
That was 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy
Yeah.
how and when I think about how little the spaces, and I know we have to wrap up, but little the spaces that Jesus was in, he really wasn't in a very large area
No.
of the world, and yet the story of Jesus, the story of God, the story of the Messiah, it's around the world.
But you know what's so beautiful, and I understand just being the type of person that I am, that he set examples that you didn't have to keep resetting, etc. If I'm going to show a guy how to build a motor, I don't have to show him every part of the motor.
Mm-mm.
All I have to do is show him, now you take this and you put this here,
Right.
and this goes to here.
Yeah. And that's what those
And this
parables
whole
do.
thing here, this is going to go in here. And he'll understand, okay, now you got 8 of these, you got 16 of these, but he'll know where they go.
Right.
Same thing, God gives us just a little piece. Jesus was in one little place here, but it applied to 16,000 other places on earth.
And what's amazing is over 2,000 years, it still applies.
It still applies.
It still applies. The stories, they still affect you today if you apply them to where you're at. And so sometimes we need to get out of ourselves, get out of our troubles, look to the Bible, look to
Yeah.
Jesus. You always say, look to the letters in red and read those letters in red because
Yeah.
they apply to you.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and end it. We hope you have a good week. Join us next time on Let's Talk God, Jesus,